What happens when Hollywood's most beloved action hero sits down with one of daytime television's most outspoken personalities and everything goes completely sideways? Picture this: Sylvester Stallone, the man who brought us Rocky and Rambo, facing off against Joy Behar in what was supposed to be a light-hearted promotional interview that turned into an absolute disaster. We're talking about a clash so intense, so unexpected that it ended with one of the hosts storming off the set in front of millions of viewers. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. And what started as friendly banter quickly escalated into something nobody saw coming. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us what you think really happened behind the scenes. Trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this one because what unfolds is absolutely wild. It was just another typical morning at The View, or so everyone thought. The studio was buzzing with its usual energy as the cameras prepared to roll for what the producers had built as a fun, casual conversation with Sylvester Stallone about his latest project. The lighting was perfect, the audience was excited, and all 5 hosts were in their seats ready to welcome one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Joy Behar, known for her quick wit and never backing down from controversy, seemed particularly animated that morning, perhaps sensing that this interview might give her the perfect opportunity to address some issues that had been on her mind. As Stallone walked onto the set, the audience erupted in applause. He looked every bit the movie star, confident and charismatic, waving to the crowd with that signature smile that had won over audiences for decades. The other hosts, Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, Sonani Host, and Alyssa Farah Griffin, all greeted him warmly, but there was something in Joy's expression that suggested she had more than just pleasantries on her agenda. Whoopi opened the interview with her usual grace. "Sylvester Stallone, welcome back to The View. It's always great to have you here." The audience applauded again as Stallone settled into the guest chair, looking relaxed and ready for what he assumed would be a typical promotional appearance. "Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here with you ladies," Stallone replied, his voice carrying that familiar grelly tone that had become iconic in cinema. Sarah Haynes jumped in next, steering the conversation toward his latest film project. "So tell us about this new movie. We heard it's quite different from your usual action roles." Stallone's face lit up as he began describing his passion project, a more dramatic piece that showcased his range as an actor. "You know, after all these years of throwing punches and chasing bad guys, I wanted to do something that really challenged me as a performer. This film is really close to my heart. It's about second chances and redemption, themes that I think everyone can relate to." Sonani Host nodded appreciatively. "That sounds wonderful, and it's great to see you expanding your horizons." The conversation was flowing smoothly, exactly as the producers had hoped. But then Joy Behar leaned forward slightly, a subtle shift that anyone who knew her well would recognize as the moment she was about to steer the conversation in a completely different direction. "Sylvester, before we talk more about the movie, I have to ask you something that's been bothering me." The atmosphere in the studio changed instantly. Stallone's relaxed demeanor shifted slightly as he sensed a change in tone. "Sure, Joy. What's on your mind?" Joy's voice took on that edge that regular viewers knew all too well. "I've been thinking a lot about the characters you've played over the years, especially Rocky and Rambo. And I have to say I'm troubled by the messaging in some of these films." Stallone blinked clearly, not expecting this direction. "I'm sorry, what do you mean by troubled?" "Well," Joy continued, her voice gaining momentum, "these characters, they solve everything with violence. Rocky wins through fighting. Rambo kills his way through every problem. Don't you think that sends a dangerous message to young people that violence is the answer to everything?" The other hosts exchanged glances, sensing that this was not going to be a promotional interview they had planned. Whoopi tried to interject with a gentle redirect, but Joy was just getting started. Stallone straightened in his chair, his expression shifting from confusion to slight irritation. "Joy, with all due respect, I think you're missing the point of these characters entirely. Rocky isn't about violence, it's about perseverance, about never giving up against impossible odds. And Rambo, well, that's about a veteran struggling with trauma and finding his place in a world that forgot about him." Joy shook her head dismissively. "But at the end of the day, they're still solving their problems by punching people or shooting them. How is that not?" "Because," Stallone said, his voice starting to carry a hint of frustration, "these are fictional characters in extraordinary situations. Rocky fights in a boxing ring, which is a sport, a regulated competition, and Rambo is a soldier dealing with impossible circumstances. These aren't ordinary people going around starting fights." Joy wasn't backing down. "But young people watch these movies and they see their heroes using violence, and then they think that's how they should handle their problems. Don't you feel any responsibility for that?" The tension in the studio was becoming palpable. Stallone's jaw tightened as he processed what he was clearly starting to see as an attack on his life's work. "Joy, I've been making movies for over 40 years. I've always tried to create characters that inspire people, that show them they can overcome adversity. If you can't see the deeper meaning in these stories, then maybe you're the one missing something." That comment hit Joy like a slap. Her eyes flashed with anger as she shot back. "Are you suggesting that I'm too stupid to understand your movies, Sylvester?" "I'm not saying you're stupid," Stallone replied, his voice getting louder. "I'm saying you're deliberately misinterpreting them to make some kind of political point. The other hosts were now looking genuinely concerned. Whoopi tried again to calm things down. Let's all take a breath here and maybe we can. But Joy cut her off, her voice rising. Political point. This isn't political. This is about taking responsibility for the content you put into the world. You've made billions of dollars glorifying violence. And when someone calls you out on it, you get defensive instead of owning up to it. Stalin's face was wreaking now, his famous temper starting to show. Glorifying violence. Are you kidding me? These movies are about hope, about fighting for what's right, about never giving up. If you can't see that, then you're either blind or you're choosing to ignore it because it doesn't fit your narrative. Joy's eyes narrowed dangerously at Stalin's accusation about her narrative. My narrative is that maybe, just maybe, someone who's made a fortune off of violent entertainment should show a little humility when questioned about it. Stalin leaned forward, his voice dropping to that low, intense tone that moviegoers knew meant trouble. Humility? You want to talk about humility? How about showing some humility yourself instead of sitting there on your high horse judging work you clearly don't understand? The audience was dead silent now, sensing that this had gone way beyond a typical daytime television disagreement. Sarah Haynes looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair while Sunani, host, was frantically trying to catch the producer's attention off camera. Joy's voice got louder, more combative. I understand perfectly well, Sylvester. I understand that you've built an empire on the idea that the solution to every problem is to hit it harder or shoot it more times. And when intelligent people try to have a conversation about the impact of that messaging, you resort to personal attacks. Stalin's voice was incredulous. Now, you started this whole thing by attacking everything I've worked for my entire career. You came after my characters, my movies, my life's work, and you're surprised that I'm defending myself. Whoopi made another desperate attempt to regain control. Okay, everyone. I think we need to take a step back here. This is getting a little heated. And Joy turned on Whoopi with surprising venom. No, Whoopi, I'm not backing down from this. Someone needs to hold these Hollywood types accountable for what they put out there. Stalin's face went from red to nearly purple. Hollywood types, lady. I didn't grow up in Hollywood. I grew up poor in Hell's Kitchen, sleeping in bus stations, writing scripts that nobody wanted. I created Rocky because I believed in the underdog, because I knew what it was like to get knocked down and have to get back up. Oh, spare me the sob story. Joy shot back, waving her hand dismissively. Every actor in Hollywood has some hard luck story about how they struggled. That doesn't give you a free pass to pump out mindless violence for decades. The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Stalin stared at Joy in complete disbelief, his mouth slightly open as if he couldn't quite process what he just heard. Mindless violence, he repeated slowly, his voice dangerously quiet. You just called 40 years of my work mindless violence. Even Joy seemed to realize she might have gone too far, but her pride wouldn't let her back down. If the shoe fits Sylvester, that was the breaking point. Stalin stood up abruptly from his chair, towering over the panel. You know what, Joy, I've been coming on talk shows for decades and I've dealt with tough questions, criticism, even hostility. But I've never ever had someone sit there and completely disrespect everything I've accomplished with such arrogance and ignorance. Joy stood up too, not to be intimidated. Ignorance. The only ignorance here is pretending that mindless action movies are some kind of art form that's above criticism. There's that word again, Stalin said, his voice rising. Mindless. You keep using that word like you know what you're talking about. Have you ever written a screenplay? Have you ever spent months preparing for a role? Have you ever put your heart and soul into creating something that might inspire people? That are we having 8 maybe? I don't have to be a filmmaker to recognize garbage when I see it. Joy fired back. The other hosts were now looking around, desperately, clearly hoping someone would step in and end this disaster. The studio audience was riveted, watching what was essentially a verbal boxing match between two strong personalities who refused to back down. Stalin shook his head in disgust. Garbage. Now my work is garbage. Tell me, Joy, what exactly have you contributed to the world that's so meaningful? What have you created that's touched millions of lives? Joy's face flushed with anger. I've spent my career in journalism, holding powerful people accountable, asking the tough questions that need to be asked. Something you clearly can't handle. Journalism? Stalin laughed, but there was no humor in it. Is that what you call this? Ambushing a guest with uninformed opinions and personal attacks. If this is journalism, then maybe the profession is in worse shape than I thought. The insult to her profession was the last straw for Joy. Her voice reached a pitch that made everyone in the studio wheeze. How dare you question my professionalism? I've been doing this job since before you were famous, and I don't need some muscle-bound actor telling me how to do journalism. Muscle-bound actor. Stalin's voice was deadly quiet now. Is that really how you see me? After everything we've talked about, after I've tried to explain the meaning behind my work, you reduce me to a muscle-bound actor? Joy crossed her arms defiantly. Well, if the steroid-enhanced shoe fits. The gasp from the audience was audible. Even Whoopi looked shocked at how far Joy had just crossed the line. Stalin stared at her for a long moment, his face cycling through emotions from hurt to anger to complete disgust. Steroids, he said finally. No, you're just making things up. You're so desperate to win this argument that you're willing to spread lies on national television. Joy shrugged with fake innocence. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. Nobody gets that big naturally, especially not at your age. Stallone's hands were clenched into fists. Now though he kept them at his sides, you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. I've been drug tested for movies for competitions. I've been transparent about my fitness regimen my entire career. But you don't care about facts, do you? You just want to tear someone down and make yourself feel important. Important. Joy's voice was shrill now. I don't need to tear anyone down to feel important. I'm already important. I've got my own platform, my own voice, and I'm not afraid to use it to call out problematic behavior when I see it. Problematic behavior, Stallone repeated, shaking his head. Creating characters that inspire people to never give up, to fight for what they believe in, to overcome obstacles. Yeah, that's real problematic, Joy. Joy rolled her eyes dramatically. Oh, please save the inspirational speech for someone who's buying it. Your characters don't inspire anything except more violence and toxic masculinity. At the mention of toxic masculinity, something in Stallone's expression changed. He looked at Joy with something approaching pity. You really don't get it. You're so caught up in your political talking points that you can't see past them to understand what these stories actually mean to people. I understand perfectly, Joy shot back. I understand that you've made millions selling the fantasy that problems can be solved with enough punches and explosions, and when someone points out how harmful that is, you can't handle the criticism. Stallone's patience finally snapped completely. Handle criticism. I've been handling criticism my entire career. Joy. Difference is most critics actually watch the movies before they tear them apart. They don't just throw around buzzwords like toxic masculinity without understanding what they're talking about. Joy's face twisted with indignation. Buzzwords? Are you serious right now? Toxic masculinity is a real issue in our society, and your movies are a perfect example of it. Big strong man solves problems with violence, never shows emotion except anger, dominates everyone around him. That's textbook toxic masculinity. Have you even watched Rocky? Stallone demanded, his voice reaching a volume that made the microphones crackle. The whole point of that character is that he's sensitive, caring, vulnerable, he cries. He shows fear. He talks about that toxic masculinity. Joy waved dismissively. One character crying doesn't erase decades of promoting violence as the solution to everything. And don't even get me started on Rambo. That's just pure military propaganda. Military propaganda. Stallone's voice cracked with disbelief. Rambo is about a veteran who was abandoned by his country, who suffers from trauma that nobody understands. It's a criticism of how we treat our soldiers, not propaganda for the military. Joy laughed, a harsh mocking sound. Oh, please, it's about a super soldier who kills hundreds of people. If that's your idea of criticizing the military, then you're even more out of touch than I thought. Stallone looked around at the other hosts as if seeking some sanity in the conversation. Are you all hearing this? She's completely rewriting the plots of my movies to fit her agenda. Whoopi tried once more to intervene. Look, I think we're all getting a little carried away here. Maybe we should. Joy cut her off, again her voice rising. I'm not getting carried away. Whoopi, I'm having a discussion about the impact of media on society, which is exactly what we should be doing on this show. This isn't a discussion, Stalin shot back. This is a character assassination. You've called my work mindless, garbage, toxic, and propaganda. You've made personal attacks about my appearance and spread lies about drug use. If this is your idea of journalism, then journalism is dead. Joy's eyes flashed dangerously. Don't you dare lecture me about journalism. I've been asking the hard questions while you've been playing dress up and pretending to be a hero. At least ideal in reality, not fantasy. Fantasy. Stalin's voice was incredulous. You think the struggles that Rocky faces are fantasy? You think the pain that Rambo carries is fantasy? These characters represent real human experiences, real emotions, real challenges. They represent male fantasy. Joy retorted, the fantasy that you can punch your way out of any problem. That violence makes you a hero, that showing vulnerability is weakness unless it's followed by revenge. Stallone stared at her in complete bewilderment. You just contradicted yourself. You said, my characters never show emotion. Now, you're saying showing vulnerability is weakness in my movies. Which is it, Joy? You can't have it both ways. Joy realized her mistake but doubled down instead of acknowledging it. The point is, your movies send mixed messages that ultimately glorify violence. And when people try to have an intelligent conversation about that, you resort to name-calling and personal attacks. Name-calling. Stalin's voice rose to a near shout. You called me muscle-bound, accused me of steroid use, called my work garbage and mindless, and I'm the one doing the name-calling. The other hosts were now looking genuinely frightened. Sarah Haynes was visibly shaking and Tsunami host was making frantic gestures. To the producers off camera, Joy's voice reached a crescendo of indignation. I stated facts about the problematic nature of your work. You responded with personal attacks on my intelligence and professionalism. Facts. Stallone was shouting. Now, what facts? You haven't presented a single fact this entire time. Everything you've said has been opinion, interpretation, or outright lies. You accused me of drug use without any evidence. You misrepresented the plots of my movies. You've twisted every explanation I've given. Where are the facts, Joy? Joy's composure finally cracked. She was screaming now, her face red with fury. The fact is that you can't handle being questioned by a strong woman. The fact is that you're so used to having your ego stroked that when someone challenges you, you fall apart. Fall apart. Stalin's voice was a roar now. Lady, I've been trying to have a rational conversation with you for the past 20 minutes while you've done nothing but attack me personally and professionally. If anyone's falling apart here, it's you." Joy stood up abruptly, her chair rolling backward from the force. "I am not falling up to a bully who thinks he can intimidate me with his size and his fame." Bully. Stallone's eyes went wide. "I'm the bully. You ambushed me on national television, misrepresented my work, made false accusations, and I'm the bully." Joy was breathing heavily now, her hands shaking with rage. "You know what, Sylvester? I've had enough of this. I've had enough of trying to have an intelligent conversation with someone who clearly isn't capable of self-reflection." Stallone laughed bitterly. "Self-reflection? That's rich coming from someone who hasn't reflected on a single thing I've said this entire time. You've made up your mind before I even sat down." "You're right," Joy said, her voice suddenly ice cold. "I have made up my mind. I've decided that I don't need to sit here and be lectured by someone whose greatest contribution to cinema is teaching people that problems can be solved with enough steroids and punches." The steroid accusation again sent Stallone over the edge. "That's it. That's the second time you've accused me of drug use on national television. You're spreading lies, Joy, and you know it." Joy grabbed her papers from the desk, shuffling them aggressively. "I'm stating my opinion based on observation. If you don't like it, maybe you should examine why that bothers you so much." Stallone's voice was shaking with rage now. "It bothers me because it's a lie. It bothers me because you're damaging my reputation with false accusations. It bothers me because you claim to be a journalist, but you're acting like a tabloid gossip columnist." Joy had reached her breaking point. She slammed her papers down on the desk with a loud crack that echoed through the studio. "That's it. I don't have to sit here and listen to this anymore. I don't have to be insulted by someone who thinks making action movies makes him an expert on social responsibility." Whoopi made one last desperate attempt. "Joy, please, let's all just..." But Joy was already moving, pulling off her microphone with angry, jerky movements. "No, Whoop. I'm not going to sit here and be talked down to by someone who's spent his career promoting everything that's wrong with toxic masculinity in America." Stallone stood up too, his voice following her. "Running away, Joy. That's your solution. When someone challenges your narrow-minded worldview." Joy spun around, her face a mask of fury. "I'm not running away. I'm making a statement. I'm showing that women don't have to sit there and take abuse from aging action stars who can't handle criticism." "Abuse?" Stallone's voice cracked with disbelief. "Defending myself against false accusations is abuse." Joy was at the edge of the set now, but she turned back for one final shot. "Goodbye, Sylvester. Maybe next time you'll think twice before coming on a show where women aren't afraid to ask the tough questions." And with that she stormed off the set, leaving behind a stunned silence that seemed to stretch on forever. The remaining hosts sat in shock, Stallone stood frozen in place, and the audience watched in complete disbelief as one of daytime television's most explosive confrontations came to its dramatic conclusion. What did you think of this incredible confrontation? Have you ever seen anything like this on daytime television? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and make sure to subscribe for more unbelievable moments like this. What do you think really caused Joy to finally lose her composure? Was it the criticism of her journalism or something deeper? Let us know what you